Hi, everyone. It's Paul Ward here, and welcome to another 15 Minutes. I'm very excited today. We've got a special guest, John Mallett with Main Street Mortgage. John, welcome.
Good to be here, Paul. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be on your show. This is fantastic.
Absolutely. And today we're talking about the three big don'ts when buying a house. And, I love talking to you, John, because you definitely think outside the box. And what you have to share today, I think, is not what folks are going to assume. And so that's really why I wanted to have you on, because you have a different way of thinking about these things. Yeah. So let's jump right in, John. What is the first big thing, the first big don't?
Well, the first big don't, in my opinion, is to not listen to the media when it comes to first-time home buyers. You know, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal that showed that the payments for a new home were 52% greater than the rents, and they were really kind of discouraging first-time home buyers. And I'm here to say that as much as I think the Wall Street Journal is so prestigious, it's a great publication, they're 100% wrong. I mean, think about it for a minute. In our area, the average rent or the median rent is around $3,200 a month. Let's say you have a new house payment. Let's say that you go ahead and that new house payment is $5,800 a month. I mean, it's a lot more money than $3,200.
Right.
But what nobody is really talking about is the fact that the rents rise. Once you get your mortgage, it stays the same. You can always refinance it if rates go down. But let's just say that the payment is at $5,800. Well, if the rent is at $3,200 and it rises 3 to 4% a year, within 30 years, that payment will be $10,000 a month. And so now you have somebody who rented all their life because they were told, no, don't buy. And they're stuck with a rent payment on retirement of about $10,000 a month. People think, well, that's never going to happen, but it has happened the last 30 years. And so as a result of that, you can count on rents rising. And the other thing that people don't realize is that because of the higher rates, and I realize that the rates are higher than they used to be, they're a little bit higher than the average over the last 30 years, but they are a little bit elevated right now. And the one thing that people are forgetting about more than anything else, and this is crazy because when the rates were low, it was like, okay, we don't even talk about itemization or for tax savings because no one was ever over the $25,000 itemized deduction for couples and for $14,000 for individuals. Some more for individuals and as well, not as much as the individuals had more opportunity for tax itemization during that time. But generally speaking, because the rates were so low, nobody was really itemizing their returns. Well, now, if I have a $750,000 loan, which is the highest that you can deduct for, my deduction, when I end up counting all my taxes and I itemize those deductions, it comes to $1,544 a month that I don't have to pay tax on.
That's huge.
It's huge. So
it's essentially bringing in a way, it's kind of bringing your monthly payment down if you think about it, because you're still making the payment, but come tax time, you're saving over $1,000 a month in taxes.
Exactly. It's huge. It's a really big number. You simply ask for more deductions from your employer, get paid more. You just want to make it so that at the end of the year at tax time, you don't owe taxes and they don't owe you. And by doing that, I mean, the tax benefits right now of home ownership because of the high rates are incredible. And so then you say, oh, okay, well, so now it's not really $5,800. It's more like, $4,600 or $4,300. Well, then all of a sudden, you're starting to get some parity between that and rent. And they don't think also, the thing that really bugs me is that it just kind of gets me is that they're not looking also at buy versus rent versus the underbelly, the stuff that you normally don't talk about. The fact that married couples who own homes, 50% chance less that they divorce. Children do better in school. There's a direct correlation for people who are involved more in the community. I mean, they're rooted. And that rootedness makes it so that they want to be there, so that there's something for them and for intergenerational wealth. I mean,
so kind of pride of ownership.
Yeah, pride of ownership, exactly right. And
Hmm.
so when you take into account that the rents are going to pass your mortgage payment at some point, when you take into account that there's itemized deductions, and when you take into account that people who wait too long are going to price themselves out of the market. And they do
Hmm.
that because their income may go up 3% a year. If they make 100,000 a year, it goes up 3% a year. That's a good raise.
Right.
Well, homes that are $600,000 or $700,000 or $800,000, when they go up 3 to 4% a year, all of a sudden it's so disproportional that at some point you're going to be priced out of the market.
Right.
So the opportunity for a first-time home buyer, if you can buy responsibly, now is the time to do that. And also because rates are high and less people can afford the mortgage payments, there's more opportunity, of course, to get your offer accepted.
Well, I was just gonna, I was just thinking that because I don't know where I heard it, but if rates go down, is it 1 to 2%? There's going to be something like 3 to 5 million more people out home shopping.
Exactly.
And I
Exactly.
remember, during
Right.
COVID, it was, I mean, even though we were in kind of COVID times or just kind of towards the end of COVID, when rates were still historically low, it seemed like
Right.
there were 15 offers on every property, right?
Exactly.
And so they don't
Exactly.
tell you that, somebody got the 2.5% rate, but
Yep.
there were 14 people that lost out, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
In fact, for every percent that the rate goes down, 5 million more people qualify to buy.
wow.
So it's a huge, as far as being able to get a property that you want in a market with really tight inventory. And inventory is not going to, the prices are really, when you really think about it, in my opinion, prices are far from plunging. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
right now in the United States, we're down by some people from analysis that they do, we're down by 7.5 million homes need to be
Wow.
built in order to have equilibrium between supply and demand.
Mm-hmm. I also tell folks that, your first home doesn't have to be your dream home, right? Just
Right.
get your foot in the door. I mean,
Yeah.
live there for a few years and then move up to
Yep.
the house that you were dreaming about.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
kind of wait too long, and then you rent forever, and you never have an opportunity to even get your foot in the door.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up, Paul. I was presenting a first-time home buyer seminar a few weeks ago, and they were all young couples in there, all millennials, except one individual, one lady that was just great. Susan is her name, and she was older, and she had not bought, and she basically told everybody in the room, make sure you buy, because
Mm-hmm.
when you do it when you're young, it's much better.
Yep.
And she's a great gal. So we're hoping to work with her a little bit as well. So it's always a good time to buy no matter what your age is. But the facts is that you got to really move on it as soon as you can, because you want to make sure that your mortgage is paid off as much as possible when you
Right.
retire. Not having those payments is phenomenal.
What's the second big don't?
Well, the second big don't be a prisoner in your home. It's kind of an irony right now, but it's that because people are in homes with interest rates between 2.5% and 3%, they are so enamored with the idea that they have to stay in that home.
Right.
The issue is that it may not be moving their life forward. Now, they can
Mm-hmm.
responsibly buy a different type of home. Maybe it's more expensive, maybe it's a downsize, whatever it might be. I'll give you an example. We have a friend of ours who decided to buy a larger home, and they went out looking. She looked at a house. She loved the kitchen. She said, I'll buy the kitchen. And they basically bought the kitchen and threw in the house, right?
Right.
And because of that one change, she's cooking more, families coming over more, they're eating more, they're around the table more. I mean, it's changed the entire culture and zen, you might say, of their family.
Right.
And
Right.
so when they're at 3%, people say, well, I've got to stay with this rate. And now I'm saying you got to be really careful about it, because 3% is a great rate and you pay things off much faster,
Right.
a lot less interest. But if it's holding you back from moving your life forward to where you want it to be, and you can responsibly buy something that's going to work for you, don't let the rate be a determinant as to whether or not you need to invest in something else.
Right. I did notice after COVID that nobody wanted to move, right? Because they all refied, right, to the 2.5%, 3%. And it's like,
Right.
well, I can live with my mother-in-law because
Yeah.
my rate is so low.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now we're seeing, cracks in the armor, right? It's like, you know
Right.
what? I don't care what the rate is. I just can't live with my mother-in-law anymore.
Right,
I
right. I
gotta get
gotta
out.
get out. Yeah,
I mean, the rates
exactly.
are,
Right.
it's like, doesn't matter what the rates are. It's just,
Right.
I can't handle this living situation.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
and then with low inventory, you see that prices stay high, right? You'd think that
Yes,
prices would come down
yes.
with such high rates, but because inventory is so low, I mean, go back to high school, Econ 101 class,
Right.
supply and demand,
Yep.
but we just haven't seen really, we've seen a little bit of price drops, right? Because, I mean, sellers got a little greedy. I think sellers got a little greedy, so
Yeah, yeah.
a little bit of a dip in the market, but
A little bit of softening, but nothing that's no crash, nothing
no.
nothing below 5%, as a matter of fact. In fact, a lot of offers that we're working with our clients on now are all above asking.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's impressive.
yeah. So,
What's the third big don't
well, the
when
third
purchasing?
big don't that is a really big one right now, and this one's huge. It's just amazingly huge, and that is that the old saying that what everybody's heard about on reverse mortgages, the myths that are surrounding that. And I will admit that in the past, reverse mortgages have been horrible. But as of 5 to 10 years ago, they've started getting better and better and better to where there's not even an inkling of what they were back in the old days.
And for folks that don't know, John, what is a reverse mortgage?
A reverse mortgage is primarily for people that are 62 years of age or older, and they have equity in their home enough to where they no longer have to make a mortgage payment. And if they have enough equity, then they'll actually get a line of credit. Because when people retire, a lot of times people are outliving their funds. And as a result of that, they run out of money.
Mm-hmm.
And so a reverse mortgage, there was an individual by the name of Robert Merton, who was a Nobel laureate. In other words, he received the Nobel Prize. And he said that in the United States is the only place in the world that's, first world countries that looks down on reverse mortgages, because all of these other countries have them. They use them, they're called equity releases. And he really talks about the idea that they can be very helpful, and they're not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have an individual that has $500,000 in the bank and their home, they owe something on their home, not a lot, but a little bit, and they decide to say, no, I'm going to live out my days because I want to give my family the equity in this home.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually they blow through the $500,000, and then they have to do a reverse mortgage.
Right.
What people are learning now is that if you do the reverse mortgage and don't touch the $500,000 and just let it grow and do its thing and scale, because you're not taking money out of it,
right,
the net amount of money all of a sudden is huge by the end of life. And what's really interesting, Paul, is that the reverse mortgage is so unique because you have it in a platform of a property that's appreciating. HUD guidelines show that properties appreciate about 4% a year. California can be a little bit more. Right now, it's maybe not as much, but generally speaking, prices are still rising. And so as a result of that, because of the equity increase is so much greater than the increase in the loan, you still, in many cases, will maintain a positive equity position. Very seldom with the new reverse mortgage guidelines out, will there be a house that's upside down upon leaving the home or upon decease. So it's a magic loan used for the right reasons. It's got to be done responsibly. It's got to be structured correctly, and that's really what we focus on.
And that opportunity, you said, starts at 62?
52. Yeah, there's some that are as low as age 55, but realistically. Wow. They get the very best products. It's 62, and you can actually get those loans up to $4 million.
Wow.
So, yeah, you've got to have a lot of equity, but they are lifesavers. Everybody that I have, the biggest risk is not to take the risk, because people that get into it, I had one lady, this is really interesting. I gave her the proposal. She calls me up, she says, no way. And then she called me later and said, I read the proposal. I read everything about it. I want to move forward. So people become educated that all of a sudden they go, wait a minute, there's a line of credit on this, and the line of credit grows over time. And, there's so many things that you can do. And in fact, we can give your listeners or viewers the article on that. And on the first-time home buyers, I'll send them a signed free copy of my book.
Wonderful. What's the name of your book?
Buy Your First Home Today. Buy Your First Home Today.
So we'll have a link, and folks can to the YouTube channel, and folks can provide their email, and then we'll ship out the book.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
and to me, I grew up in the projects. I grew up on welfare and food stamps as a teenager, and living in the projects. And I can tell you that there is just something that I call it sacred, not in a religious sense, but sacred home ownership. I mean, home ownership is a sacred trust. It's something that provides. It's where your kids come home. It's where your kids grow up. It's where they take their first steps. It's where you have your grandchildren come over. It's a really sacred space. Chinese culture says, you don't find the house, but the house finds you.
Interesting.
Something really, really very important about home ownership because of the grounding that it gives you. And so you want to do everything you can to responsibly be able to buy a home and responsibly take care of it, live in it, make sure it's the right home for you.
And you have a philosophy too, John, about legacy. You and I have talked before, and I like that. I like that philosophy. Explain that to our audience.
Yeah, the legacy is that home ownership is a legacy. When you have a home, you are building a legacy within your home. That doesn't mean you can't do it as a renter, but when you own a home, you're rooted, you're grounded. You're going to be there for a while. It's a place where your family. That's why people who rent, generally, we have people in our neighborhood that rent. They don't really come out and be neighbors that much, just because they know that at some point they're going to be moving.
Right.
And so there's something about the grounding, and it's not whether someone is irresponsible that doesn't own. That's not have to do with it all. People have great scores, great credit that rent. It's the idea of being able to have stability. It's being able to know that you're grounded, that you have something that you can pass on as a legacy for generations. And that starts from the time you buy your home, from the time you start living in it, all the events that happen. It's as if that house is part of the family that has those memories, that has that legacy.
Yeah, I love that philosophy. My wife is a teacher, been a teacher for over 25 years.
Oh, wow.
And, nothing, I'm not knocking renters, but they're more transient. The kids come and go. They don't finish out at that school. And
they have to, that has to be that way, because if rents go up, they have to move.
Right.
Or, whatever the situation might be. And so that's why the stability aspect of home ownership is such a legacy.
Very, very important. Well, this is all great information. And John, how do folks reach you? Where are you located?
Yeah, I'm in Westlake Village, California. You can call my cell phone, which is 805-432-2382. And you can email me at john@mainstreetloans.com. Anything that we can do to help you, that's what we want to do. Even if you're not ready to buy, just ask the question, what would it take for me to have this loan? What do I need to put in an ADU in my backyard? Accessory dwelling unit, and maybe increase your passive income for your rent. There's so many things that you can do as a homeowner as well.
Wonderful. And your book again? What was the name of your book again?
Oh, Buy Your First Home Today. And it really focuses on stories of people who thought that they could not qualify, but actually could. And so it's not only informational, but it's also aspirational.
Wonderful. Well, we'll make sure to have a link, and then if folks want to provide their email, you can ship out a copy of your book to them.
That'd be great. I'd love it, Paul.
Well, John, thank you
for letting me be on your show.
Absolutely. John, thank you so much for being on this episode of 15 Minutes. We've loved having you, and hopefully folks out there, I'm sure they've learned some valuable information. And if you have any questions, reach out to John directly or myself, Paul, at homeandranchteam.com. And we'll see you on the next edition of 15 Minutes.